Hello everyone, this is Damon with PixNub Software, and for this video I'm just going to be discussing Easy Green Screen 6 and what's new in Easy Green Screen 6. Now to start, version 6 is a two-tier release. It's going to be released under the Pro version and the Studio version. Everyone from all prior versions are getting a free upgrade to version 6. If you're on Easy Green Screen 5, then you will get an upgrade to the Studio version, which has the batch processing system and the green-on-green recovery system. If you're on version 4, which is 4 years old by the way, or version 3 that is 7 years old, you're going to get a free upgrade to version 6. However, it's the Pro release, which is Easy Green Screen only without the new batch processing system or the green-on-green recovery system. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's still a lot of users on versions 3 and 4, and I just don't want to maintain compatibility with future Photoshop releases. It's a lot to have to maintain multiple versions, so this is a win-win. If you're on the older releases, you're going to get a better version than you're currently using, and for me, I don't have to maintain those older versions and worry about compatibility. And there will also be an upgrade option to upgrade to the Studio version for half price for people on version 4 and earlier. And as mentioned, version 5 users, the Studio release is free. So these are the two main add-on features, is the batch processing system and the green-on-green recovery. And there's also some user interface improvements as well. So the first thing I'll talk about is the workspaces. Easy Green Screen will now use a workspace called PixNub Plugins. So what it's going to do is take a snapshot of however your workflow is. It does this each time it runs, and it puts that into a workspace called PixNub Plugins. So that way, no matter what happens inside of Easy Green Screen, it's not running in any of the other workflows, and so these remain untouched. And so in the rare event that Easy Green Screen gets aborted and the workspace isn't quite right, you'll have that just as it was in your other workspace. And when it's done running, it's going to reset the workspace. So it makes a snapshot of your current workspace and then resets it when it's done back to the original state it was before it ran. And that it will still be in the PixNub workspace, which will be a copy of your other workspace. Anyway, that works pretty good, and it prevents any issues from workspaces getting messed up if something gets aborted during the processing. So I'm just going to run a dual mask extraction here. One of the other user interface new options is you can select the default tool from lasso tool to polygon lasso. And by default, it is the lasso, but you can have the polygon lasso as your default. Also, if you're a Windows user on CC 2015.1.2 or higher, it's going to remember where you place the dual mask window as well as the Easy Green Screen window. And that includes being on a dual monitor. So that was a huge request from a lot of people, is they wanted to control where these windows went. And if you're not on your main monitor with Photoshop, the Easy Green Screen window will open up in your main monitor. Now for Windows versions CC 2015.1.2 or higher, you could go ahead and move this to your other monitor. I've got a dual monitor system, so I can move this to my second monitor, which you can't see. But wherever you leave that, it's going to open it up exactly where you're at. Now, while this seems like something that should be easy to program, with the Ultra HD 4K monitors and the Retina displays, Adobe has went through a bunch of changes on how that works internally and with the scripting engine. So I was not able to program this for anything other than Windows CC 2015.1.2 or higher. There's some bugs in Mac that prevent me from programming this in Mac. In Mac, it is going to be better than it was. I do have this window, so I can place it right about here for your Easy Green Screen. So it will place in a pretty good spot, but the custom placement, hopefully I'll get it there on Mac. I've got to put in some bug requests with Adobe to see if they can fix those. So as I mentioned, I'm actually going to move this here so I can run this again and show you how that window placement works. But I mentioned that the default dual mask selection tool, I'm going to select polygon lasso and save preferences. Now I'm going to apply this, and I'm going to rerun the extraction just so we can see that window placement here, as well as to show you that now we do have the polygon lasso selected, because it's now the default selection tool that I changed in the preferences. This window is right where I left it. And now the easy green screen window again is right where I left it. And as mentioned, you could put this on the other monitor if you're on a dual monitor system on Windows. And so the last thing to discuss is the green on green recovery. Now that includes this keep or remove areas and the recover green. These are available in the Easy Green Screen 6 Studio release only. The Pro release will not have those. Now if I hit the recover green, now you do this last. You can either launch that from within the Easy Green Screen window or from the filter menu, which we looked at earlier. It'll do the same thing. But if you do that from Easy Green Screen, just make sure it's the last step. I discuss all this more in other tutorials, so watch those. But basically, the green on green recovery allows you just to loosely select the area you want it to analyze and recover. You don't have to worry about selecting all of these edges. It's going to, for the most part, figure that out for you. I'm not on the default settings here because I have this use previous settings at start check, so it remembered what I did last. But I'll just show you when you first run it, it's going to be under the default settings. And if you change anything, you can just click on this enter default settings and it'll get you back to default. And you can see that the default settings for this actually work pretty well. But if you need to change anything, you've got adjustments you can make. And basically these top two adjustments are the ones you'll use most. Be sure to watch the other videos where I discuss that as well. The last thing I want to show you is the batch processing system. Now when you batch process, you have the choice to do extractions only, and that'll just save your transparent images in a folder. And you can also do extractions plus the green recovery in one step, so that'll extract and then bring up the green recovery for each image, similar to what I just showed you, and again save those in a separate folder with the extractions. Or you can do green recovery only, so you can run the extractions first and walk away while it's extracting, then come back in and then run a batch process on those extractions to do the green recovery. I'm going to do the extractions and the green recovery. I've already got a folder selected. This has only got 2 images in it, so I'm just going to run this real quick to demonstrate how it works. So the first thing it's doing is extracting the green screen. Then it's bringing up the green recovery to where I'm just going through those same steps that I showed you in the last run that we did. And now for this image, you see that those settings I used in that last image didn't, or it recovered a bit of the screen. Once you get used to how these settings work, you'll understand what you're looking at and be able to pretty quickly figure out what you need to adjust. And it remembered that last image I did because I had this checkbox checked to use the last settings instead of the default. But if you're doing a batch and you've shot all of your images under similar conditions, once you figure these settings out, you could check this and it'll use those settings for the next image, and you won't have to dial those in for each image. So this ends up being a very quick way to do green on green recovery. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time, you don't have to do any manual brushing at all. Now you can manually brush this. I show that in the tutorials on another video because this makes a non-destructive layer set to where you can touch this up, and you could in your batch save as a PSD so you have those layers to touch up. So if anything wasn't quite right, you could go back in and fine-tune it. But you can see this did a pretty good job with just the settings that we used last time. So we hit apply, and if we had a third image, it would bring that image up. You see this tells us it was 47 seconds an image, and that's because I'm talking a lot and not really working as fast as I would. But for doing extractions and the green recovery plus opening and saving the images all inclusive, I found I can get this to around 20 seconds an image, which is actually pretty quick. If you don't think that's fast, go try to manually brush everything back in and see if you can get 20 seconds an image. And I guarantee you can't do it manually brushing and trying to stay within the lines. Anyway, thanks for watching. And if you're interested at all in Easy Green Screen 6, please be sure to visit our website. That is pixnub.com.